Well, hello. This is Naomi with Planners on Purpose. Good to be here. Hi to all of those that are joining me here on the replay. Good to be able to see you. So, and I say that because I know not everybody hops on right away. So we'll wait for some to join, and we'll go ahead and get started. So this is book club with Planners on Purpose, and what this book club is all about is about reading different materials that help us just on our self-discovery journey. So we're all about reading materials to help us with leadership, to help us with burnout, with stress, and then just also help us with event planning. So I love going ahead and digging deep into these particular books every single month. And if you have any suggestions about books that we should read, definitely go ahead and put them in the comments. So thank you. So just waiting, making sure that I am, you can hear me okay. So my husband came in and gave me the thumbs up. So I know that I'm good to go. So he's a lifesaver. So good to have you here. If you would like to go ahead and say hello and put a comment in there and just let me know that you're there, that would be great. I am just looking forward to engaging with you, looking forward to hearing some of your insights about this book. I always want to know if you read the book, but it's okay if you haven't. If you're joining and you haven't read the book and you're just here for a few tips on managing your burnout, that's okay. We will get you what you need. So we're reading this month, Burnout, and it's The Secret of Unlocking the Stress Cycle, and it's by Emily and Amelia Nagoski. So it's a really great book. I really enjoyed reading it. So we'll have some opportunities to just kind of dissect that book and really see what you all thought. So I really hope that you have all of your insights handy. And if you haven't read the book, definitely have some questions handy on burnout. What are you navigating through when it comes to burnout? I would love to be able to hear those, and perhaps we can point you to some answers that occurred in the book. So welcome again to everyone that's here. This is Planners on Purpose Book Club. We're here talking about burnout this month, and we're talking about Emily and Amelia Nagoski's book called Burnout, The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle. So again, this is a really exciting book. We're going to dig deep. I usually like to share what I've learned, and then I will look to you to see what you have learned as well. So just definitely start putting those things in the comments. I would love to be able to hear about them from you. So first off, I just wanted to make sure that everybody that's here, if you haven't subscribed or liked Planners on Purpose, go ahead and take a moment to do that. I would want to make sure that you get notifications on anything that we have coming up. We do have a book club that's coming up in May. I believe it's May 5th, so Cinco de Mayo. And that should be a fun one. So we'll be talking about Rethinking, which is by Adam Grant. So I'm excited about that book as well. I think it's called Think Again. So we will get into that, and I'll share more information on that book after this book club. So again, let me know if you're here. Are you excited to be here? What are you looking to get out of this book club? Definitely put that over in the comments so that I can hear can see them and refer to them. But welcome to everyone that's here. So this book was very interesting to me, and burnout and stress, that is a very a subject to me that's near and dear to my heart. And the only reason why is because I probably go through many stress cycles often. So I feel like in event planning, we definitely we are always going through certain stress cycles. So I wanted to really just go through my book here and offer you some different takeaways and insights, and hopefully you'll be able to respond in the comments on some of your takeaways and insights, and we can make this be a discussion for you. So we will go ahead and get started. But again, I would love to know if you read the book, and I would love to know what you thought about it. I feel like the book was it was very comprehensive, well-rounded book about stress and about the stress cycle. It definitely journeyed through several different areas of stress. We talked about in the first few chapters on what stress is, what stress and stressors are, and I'll talk about that in a minute. We also kind of walk through, sorry, just kind of going through here. We also walk through kind of who the real enemy is, which we'll talk about. And then we'll also talk about some of the other areas that bring us stress, which is the bikini industrial complex. So that's one that was interesting, as well as talking about the patriarchy. So I found that interesting that they chose to put those chapters in the book, but it was welcomed. It was welcomed, and I definitely got a lot out of it. And then we'll also talk about how connections are made and how you making connections will also help with what you're going through and your stress. So that was kind of a very kind of a roundup of what the book was about. So I am just going to start to walk through some of my takeaways, and then hopefully I will hear from you on some of yours, and we can go from there. Now, typically when I do this, I have a PowerPoint and all of that, and then I just wanted to take a page out of the book and say, you know what, that sometimes can be a stressor for me, getting some of that all completed before one of these broadcasts. So I just chose not to do it and just see how it works this time around, and just wanted to casually come to you and casually talk. So hopefully we will get a chance to do that. And but it definitely helps for me not to had some of that pre-event stress that was going on. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about stress and stressors, because that is the first couple of things that really the ground laying that was happening with this book. So Emily and Amelia definitely started the book off by showing us what stress is and what stressors are. And I felt like it would be great if you would know, and we can take some opportunities to learn what stress is and what stressors are, because they are two separate and different things. So I'm pretty sure that as I read them, you're going to say, oh, I know what my stressors are, and I know where my stress comes from. So I'll go ahead and take a moment to define this for you, and then perhaps that will help you let me know in the comments on if these are things that you have dealt with, and let me know what your stressors are, and let me know what your stress would be. So stressors are what activate the stress response in your body. So stressors are what activate it. It can be anything that you see, you can touch, you can feel it, or it can imagine to do you harm. So work, your family time, cultural norms and expectations, those all can be stressors. So that's the short definition of what stressors are. So if you're familiar with stressors, go ahead and throw an emoji or throw something in the comments for me. And then also, I will define stress as it relates to what is put in the book. So stress is the neurological and physiological shift that happens in your body when you encounter these threats. So you have stressors that happen in your life, and as a result of those stressors, you then have that stress. And then what happens at that point is that your body has to go through what's called a stress cycle. It's the cycle in which your body actually processes stress. And the book here goes into detail about that. So again, let me know if you have dealt with stress, if you have experienced burnout, and what those stresses and stress is for you. So I really found it interesting in the beginning of the book, just the definition of both of those, because I know in the event planning world, we definitely go through stressors and stress. And even if you're not in event planning, if you just plan events, or if you are doing anything else with any type of role that you're in, we all have to go through different stressors and stress. And the main key idea of this book is ensuring that you know what your stressors are, so you can deal with your stressors. At the end of the day, we want to deal with those, and we want to make sure that those are manageable so that they don't cause us to go through the stress cycle as many times. What I found was really comforting about the book is that stress is something that is obviously going to happen. You can't run away from it. And I know for many in many industries, and especially the event industry, we all say, well, I love what I do. I'm passionate about what I do. We just are doing too much of it, or there's just so much going on so it causes a lot of stress. So it's really key to look at those stressors and really see, okay, well, what's causing the stress so that we can deal with those, but then also allow our bodies to go through that stress cycle. So I feel like that's important. So again, let me know if you have any comments. Let me see if I can go to a couple places here for some comments, because I know sometimes for those of you in the Planners on Purpose community, sometimes those comments don't come up right away. So I'm just going to make sure that you all aren't saying anything that I need to know, and I will check there real quick. But again, let me know what you all think about the idea of stress and stressors. What are the stressors that are happening in your life right now? What does me reading those definitions bring up for you? I would love to be able to hear that, so we can talk about it more. It's always nice to go to book club when you have a conversation, because I definitely don't want it to be a one-way conversation. So let me know in the comments. Okay, so we're good to go. So Jennifer, welcome. Good to see you. Thank you for being here. Jennifer says that it's so helpful to disaggregate those two concepts. Yeah, isn't it? Being stressed as opposed to having the stressors, because I feel like in our world, I don't know, Jennifer, if you're in the event planning world, but in the event planning world, there are so many things that can be our stressors. So it can be our clients, it can be our work in itself. Perhaps it could be over engineered, or it can be definitely too complicated, or the process flow isn't really going right. Sometimes those things can be a form of a stressor that then produces the stress. So I do agree with you. It's so helpful to identify what the two things are, because it helps you to be able to deal with it and to solution it in the best way that you can. So definitely, I agree that those two concepts are certainly key to understanding some things. So now I wanted to go a little bit into stress cycle, just to see what y'all thought of that, because the stress cycle is really how you deal with the stress. So your body has to go through an actual stress cycle in order to process that stress. And there are many ways that you can go through that process. And it lists out some definite ways in the book. And it's key, though, to go through that complete cycle and to not get stuck. And as I read these, you'll be able to identify what that would be for yourself. So, okay. So how you can actually deal with it is if you have like positive social interaction. So if you have a lot of positive social interaction with people, it can help relieve some of that stress on yourself. If you laugh, having laughter, physical activity. So they say that physical activity, exercising, is one of the best ways and the most impactful ways in order to manage your burnout and manage that stress. So again, if you're dealing with stress, go into your punching bag or doing some Zumba lessons or whatever it would be for you. Just taking a walk really helps to just alleviate that stress. It helps your body go through that stress cycle so it can deal with what the stressor is, because your body has to do that. And when it doesn't, it ends up being stuck, and that's not where we want it to be. Some other ideas here are affection. So that could be physical affection with a partner, with a spouse. Also, it says a big old cry. Sometimes crying can help you. It helps release stress. And then also creative expression. So those are some ways that we can actually deal with the deal with our stressors and help our bodies and encourage our bodies go through the stress cycle. Some things which we probably don't want to do is not dealing with it and suppressing it, because that can end up doing us more harm than good. And I know that this happens a lot within the community, because sometimes or just with anyone that has a high pressure job, right? You are pressured so much that you say, okay, I just need to get through this. And once I get through it, then I'll be good. But sometimes you're only good until the next event comes up or that next project comes up. And sometimes they happen one after another. So your body never really goes through that process of cycling the stress. It just holds on to it. And when it holds on to it, then it's doing other things within your body, which can be some health effects that it holds on to. It can be weight gain. It can be chronic illness. Or disease. So there are lots of things that can manifest within your body if you're not able to move forward through that stress cycle. So allowing yourself to get through it, do whatever you need to get through that stress cycle is very key. So what about you? Again, I want it to be a discussion. What have you done? What is your key to getting through your stress cycle? Because maybe there's something that you do in particular that is your jam for getting through your stress. What would that be? I know for me, it can be a lot of the social interaction. I do have some close friends. I have my close work friends that I like to talk to, but I have friends outside of work that I talk through things with. And I just love to laugh. Sometimes turning it on a comedy show or just having fun with friends really can help alleviate that stress and take that pressure off. So what is it for you? What can you identify is your cup of tea when it comes to dealing with your stress? Let me know in the comments. And if you don't want to let me know, that's fine. Write it down, because I think it's more important for you to get what you need out of this to help you and to help your life as you're dealing with the stress and the pressures that you are with your job and at home. Okay. So, all right. So that's kind of the first couple of chapters. What did you all think about those first couple chapters? Want to hear from you. If you could let me know about that, that would be great. All right. So I wanted to go through ways that you're ignoring your stressor. So the stressor, what we identified is, it can be your work, it can be your kids, it can be your home, it can be other things that is your stressor. So you can ignore it. And sometimes you ignore it by just always focusing on something different. And it says here that it can be like obsessive thoughts, or you're like fiddling with let's say your body, or you're picking at things. Sometimes that's a way that you can ignore the stress that you're dealing with. So if you find that's something that you do, then you might be ignoring the stress or that you might have to deal with. Okay. Chandeliering, it's a Brene Brown term. So this term comes from, you're just so intense with pain. You have such a sudden pain that you just scream, it's eruptive. And that's what's called chandeliering. So this is something Brene Brown came up with. But if you are an erupter and you just scream at the top of your lungs, or you just have to go let it out, then that's chandeliering. If this is something that you do, it means that you're probably holding it in a little bit too much. And you might need to deal with that stress as a result from your stressor in a different way. Number 3, they have that you're a bunny hiding under a bridge. So sometimes we like to just hide from our stress. And I know sometimes you want to just grab your glass of wine, go by the fireplace, not talk to anybody, read a good book, and just ignore your stress. Or maybe you're not a wine person. Maybe you want to grab that ice cream and you want to turn on that Netflix and chill and not even think about it. So if that is you, you could be ignoring your stress. because it's important that we allow our bodies to go through that natural stress cycle. And then the last thing is like your body feels out of whack. So you know that all of a sudden you have back pain, or all of a sudden you're very tired. There are some physical notable differences in your body that tells you, okay, I'm not dealing with my stress in the way that I probably should be, that allows me to, get through my stress cycle. So that is the reason for that. So again, let me know which one of these are you, and perhaps you're not one of these people that ignore your stress, but I find sometimes I am, for sure. So so let me know if you are. And then, so I love this. It was like a tweetable line in the book. It said, "Wellness is not a state of being, it's a state of action." Now, that's so true. Wellness is not a state of being, it's a state of action. So it's something that we have to act on. We have to act on our well-being. Sometimes we have to defend our well-being because we have stressors coming in that we need to be able to defend, and we need to be able to act on our wellness. So I thought that was definitely something that impacted me when I was actually reading this book. All right. So how are you guys doing out there? Are you doing okay? Let me know how you're doing. Put something up in the comments. Again, excited that you were able to stop by and share some thoughts on the book. Again, this is Book Club for Planners on Purpose. And what we're doing is talking about burnout, the secret to unlocking the stress cycle. And this book tells us all about burnout, talks about the differences between stresses and stressors. And then it also tells us a little bit about how we can deal with those stressors as we move forward. So I'm sorry, I feel like I'm sweating a little here. So it was 80 degrees almost here, by the way, in Wisconsin. I don't know if that's how it is everywhere else, but we were excited for the warm weather. And it's been really working to our benefit up here in the frozen tundra. So it's great that we're having this awesome warm weather. All right. So perfect. So I wanted to kind of fast forward here a little bit to a couple of parts that I felt was very interesting. And again, the book really, at the end of each chapter, I enjoyed that it had some, kind of down and dirty tips at the very bottom of the chapters that kind of says, okay, if all else fails and if you don't read anything, here are some really quick tips that you should know. And I really appreciated that at the end of each chapter, because sometimes you can get lost in all the cases and the examples and the stories, which were awesome, by the way, with this book. But sometimes you just need it to wrap up really nicely and end. And that was something that did indeed happen. Okay. So we will kind of keep going to one of my other favorite takeaways in sections. And it's really talking about the human giver syndrome. Now, I believe I got to put this on. I think I put this on Instagram. If you're an Instagram follower and you follow me over on Instagram, I put something out there on this. But it's the idea of the human giver syndrome. And it's a concept that was described by philosopher Kate Mann. And she said that human givers have a moral obligation to give their whole humanity and give it cheerfully. So that just means human givers just want to give. They want to do things for everyone, and they do it cheerfully. And they believe that this is something morally that they should do. They believe that any failure to be pretty, happy, calm, or generous, attentive makes you a failure as a person. I know that's a little harsh, but sometimes human givers think this. And then also they believe that failure means that you deserve punishment. So if you fail to give and be so giving of yourself, that it also would then mean that you deserve punishment. Additionally, that they believe that these are not symptoms, but they're normal and true ideas. So the whole concept of giving. And I know a lot of it really comes from I think a lot of us were taught as we were growing up in fundamental beliefs, especially if you have a belief in faith, that, you love your neighbor as yourself, and that giving is so much, it opens you up to receiving even more. And I do believe that in the event industry, we definitely are givers, big givers. We give our time, we give our energy in order to make sure that events run successfully. But there can be a double-edged sword with human giver syndrome, and it can be okay to be a human giver. You have to recognize that you're a human giver, but at the same time, you need to make sure that your giving is connected to a larger purpose in order for it not to be founded in a really like in a stressful way. So that's what my learning was here from this book, is talking, balancing the human giver syndrome with the fact that someone can also have a higher purpose or have a higher meaning. So that was also a really great aspect of the book that I truly enjoyed. So is there anyone out there that perhaps felt the same way? And if you're on the replay, definitely do a hashtag replay to let me know that you caught this on the replay, and let me know what you think, because your comments are very important as well. So like I mentioned, the book talked about the something larger. So meaning that everyone believes in something larger, whether this something larger is, that you are doing what you're doing to say that, hey, my family needs me and I want to get them to a better place. Or you're saying, I believe in something larger than me. I believe in God. I believe in the creator of all things, and that I'm connected to this creator. Or you can also have it can be also be a little bit different for you, that you just kind of feel like it's a something that drives you. Your something bigger is more of a career obligated thing, like you want to push yourself farther, and that's your something bigger. So when your human giver interacts with your something bigger, that's when it's at more of a balance for you, versus if you're just giving, it can end up producing more stress, and end up being more of a stressor than it is helping. Okay, so that is something to really keep very just close to you, and because everyone should be connected to a higher purpose. So I feel like even for our events and things like that, we should definitely feel connected to whatever that is higher, like a higher purpose, something bigger. So ask yourself, what is your something bigger? And if you do care to share that something bigger, definitely put that in the comments for me and let me know. What is your something bigger? I know my kids are my something bigger. My husband, my kids, my family, that's something bigger. And I do know my faith is something bigger too. And the thing is that it's asking yourself that hard question is, by you giving so much with your events, if it's not really tied to a something bigger, then you might want to evaluate what that means for you. And I think that that's really what this book is trying to say, because when you're working in that zone of, I guess that's in the zone, as that's what I'm gonna call it. when you're working in that zone, then you don't have a stress. It's just not as much stress attached to it. Okay, so awesome, great. So what are you guys doing? What are you guys thinking? Let me know. We're moving into some other areas of the book, kind of part 2, where we talk about some of the real enemy, and we're talking about how the game is rigged. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with you, what I've read. And again, I want to hear from you on what you have read as well. So now, like I mentioned way in the beginning, is that they are also talking about the patriarchy in this book, which I found was very brave of them to put in a book and really to talk about it, because there are some particular concepts of let's say, the patriarchy. And when we talk about the patriarchy, it just means that how the world is set up, how the system, let's say, is currently set up, and how that can really strike some differences in not only men and women, it strikes differences among races. It just has a lot of differences that also set up different stressors and different responses. So when you're really evaluating yourself and evaluating your burnout and where things come from, you could also put it through the lens of the patriarchy and see how that is able to help you identify how you can really help manage what your stressors are. Because I feel like your stressors can be pretty tricky. You may be able to think it's one thing, but it's probably something else. But it's key to identifying what those are, because then it allows you to work on them over time, or work on your body's response to them over time. So what I found was interesting is that there are key differences between men and between women, and between how men and women actually manage their stress. So this kind of comes from some studies that they were done between male rats and between women rats. But I wanted to read this. It says that when male rats were exposed to the chronic mild stressors, and talking about their swim time, in the swim drops that they had to do, it forced swim drops in half. So their swim drops went in half right away. And after 6 weeks, it dropped again. But female rats, they took 3 weeks to drop their swim time, and it doesn't change after 6 weeks, which really meant that the female rats were able to sustain chronic and mild stressors, and they persisted more so than the males did. So really the book talked through different concepts of female and male stress, and how as genders we deal with stress. And it seems as though females do deal with stress differently, and they persist a little bit longer. So that's something to kind of make note of. I thought that was a very interesting fact. Would be great to hear what you thought. Additionally, in the patriarchy section, it really just talked about where people are. There was an interesting part in the book about the tall tree fairness test. So I'm not sure if you all got to this. If you did, post it, let me know what you thought about it. But the whole idea is that different people are planted in different places. So it talked about the concept of different, I guess it went through different ethnicities, and how the trees were planted in different places. So for example, it said that, let's say, white men, they grow up on an open field. Let's say white women probably grow on a far steeper, rougher terrain because the field wasn't made for them. Women of color grow not just on a hill, but on a cliff, over the side of the ocean, battered by wind and waves. And then so it says that none of the people choose the landscape where they're planted. So if you find yourself on an ocean-battered cliff, your only choice is to grow there or to fall in the ocean. So if we transplant a survivor from the steep hill or cliff to the level fields, natives of the field might look at the survivor and wonder why she was trusting, why she had so much trouble trusting systems and even her own bodily sensations, and why is this tree so bent or gnarled? And it's just because that's what that tree had to do in order to survive. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it really just talks about what you have to do in order to survive. And let's say the stress and the adversity that one has to endure in order to be able to survive. So it's an important reminder that where you're planted, right, also can be a stressor. And it's something that you would probably also need to look at. So if you're a woman, you would have to know that, hey, there are certain things that I have to deal with, or certain stressors that come to me that I have to worry about as being a woman, that aren't necessarily something that someone else would have to deal with, or a man would have to deal with. Okay. So that was interesting point as well. All right. So let me know what you guys think about the book. Let me go over again to the Facebook community to make sure they are good to go. I know sometimes I use StreamYard, and I know sometimes the Facebook groups are tough to kind of comment on. So it looks like we're all good. All right. So also, I think that the last little parts of the book, we talked about your body image and how that's very important of you to have a healthy image of your body and of yourself, and not to get sucked up into, I guess, this bikini complex of having to look like a certain person or have a certain image about yourself, because that in its own can produce you having stress. Not only stress that you would have to deal with within yourself, but also stress that might come from others. Your stressors can be a two-way street. So I really appreciated the kind of the information that was here about, body image, and how it's really important, especially as women, that we have a healthy mindset about our bodies, about our images, and about how we perceive ourselves. And it's really cool, some of the ways that they kind of mentioned to combat that. And I can't really scroll to the page now because it'd be too distracting. But it was just to just claim just who you are. So, again, it's like you are who you are. You're beautiful how you are. So claiming your beauty and all that you are is really a way to combat stress instead of being worried about that. So that was also, and redefining what is hot, what looks good. Who's to say that you can't redefine that for yourself and for how you look? So again, I appreciated that. I'm wondering if you appreciate it too. So let me know what you think in the comments about that. Okay. And then finally, a lot of the book really dealt with getting the rest that you need. So it really talks about making sure that you have 40% of your life is resting. Okay. So that means that, you probably only have enough time for resting your 8 hours a day, doing your work, doing the things at home, and a brief 30 minutes of relaxation or physical activity and things like that. But definitely you want to make sure that out of your day, you get that 40%. And it also encourages us to use that 40% as a way to block out your calendar, understanding that you do need that time. And if you do have your calendar basically blocked off, it would allow you to be able to plan the rest of your day. So they're thinking 7.7 or 8 hours of sleep. So how much sleep do you get in a day? I know sometimes I push myself, so I can probably dwindle around 5 to 6 hours of sleep. That is an area I might say that I could get a little bit better with. It also says, hey, maybe you have about 8-9 hours of working and, home life, things like that, along with some of the other things that you have to do, making sure you have 30 minutes to eat, 30 minutes for connection, for food, or I said food, for exercise, and then a wild card. So whatever else you want. So a total of 2 hours to do all of those, 8 hours of sleep, and then 14 hours of work and other things that you have to do. So if you plan your days around those things and around the rest, that really will help you to be able to be sharper, to be more focused, to be able to deal with those stressors, and help you routinely get through your stress cycles on a day-to-day basis. So, all right. So those are my takeaways for the Burnout book. Again, it was a really great book. I really enjoyed it. As you can see, I have all sorts of little Post-it notes on it. And I probably will refer back to the book often. And the book does give a lot of feedback in a similar way as the Managing Your Burnout mini course that I created for event planners or just for anyone that needs some help with managing a burnout. So if you feel like you need a little bit more, if you feel like you want some worksheets and you really want to plot out how burnout is working in your life and coming up with a plan in order to help conquer your burnout, why don't you check out the Managing Your Burnout mini course? I'll put it up here on the screen. So if you would check that out, you'll be able to, it's free, absolutely free. You'll be able to sign up, just put in your email address, and then you'll be able to be taken right to the course. And it is filled with videos. I think there's 5 or 6 modules, not modules, but videos for you, as well as supplemental worksheets to help you manage your burnout. And it goes through a lot of the concepts that are here in this book, but it's really helpful because you can print off those worksheets, come up with your custom plan, and really get yourself out on the right foot. So at Planners on Purpose, it's just all about really living your life intentionally, and how you intentionally work through and deal with your stress also is going to be very super important for you, and to help you to continue to sustain working in the industry that you love and doing the things that you love to do. We have to be able to manage our stress, allow our bodies to go through that stress cycle, find what our jam is for going through that stress cycle and doing it routinely. Okay, so that is all I have. I really do hope you check out that course. Again, for those of you that are on the replay, let me know how this book resonated with you. I would really love to be able to hear that. And I really hope that you just join me on the next book club. That next book club is going to be May 5th, and it will be about Think Again is the book by, wait, sorry, I'm just looking for the book. It's by Adam Grant. I was looking on my bookshelf, but Adam Grant is the book about Think Again is what we're going to do. It's called The Power of Knowing What You Don't Know. So that is what we're going to talk about. And what I really enjoy about Think Again, and what I know that you will enjoy, is it would allow us to really rethink just the industry that you're in. And as we're going back to getting more meetings, hopefully, the world is starting to turn again, business is starting to flow again. How we once did business probably isn't how business is going to go. We've learned much during this pandemic. We've learned how family time is important. We've learned how slowing down is really important. So perhaps it is time to rethink how we do things. So I'm looking forward to Adam Grant's book. I'm looking forward to doing this all on Cinco de Mayo. Get your margarita recipe ready, regardless if it's alcoholic or non-alcoholic. I don't care. Get it ready, because we'll have a good time with that particular book club. So again, I'm looking forward to seeing you on May 5th. It's a Wednesday. We're going to be talking about Adam Grant's book. Go ahead and pick it up. Pick it up now. And we are, I'll see you then later. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye, guys. Or bye, everyone.